All right. I know there was another 50 seconds on that countdown, but my wife is back from her bathroom break early, so.
Yeah, I am actually. I got ready early today. Usually I wait till the last minute.
Yeah, but hold on. Let me make sure that's secure. Let me do this.
Perfect. It was like dragging my shirt down.
This magnet is so strong. All right. Well, hey, I'm Alonzo DeVette. This is my wife.
Jay DeVette.
And we are in the studio today. We're back for part 37 from Genesis to Revelation. And we've gotten all the way to First Kings recently. And we're about to start today in chapter 4. So far, has David officially died? Yeah. It told us David died. He went home to his father's grave, or the grave of his fathers, and then he appointed Solomon. Solomon had to kill a few people along the way, but come on, haven't we all had to do that once or twice on our road to being kings? But yeah, so I think it's funny though, because David literally tells Solomon on his deathbed, hey, there are some people that I don't like, or I'll say this, there's some people that I promised I wouldn't kill them, but I'm about to die, so I want you to kill them. He was like, make sure they don't go to the grave in peace. So it was Joab, and then it was Shimei. I think that's his name. And Solomon did just that. And then Solomon had to also take care of one of his brothers who tried to usurp the throne, and then tried to, I don't even know what he was doing the other thing for. There was one of David's nurses, and what was his name? Was it Abishai?
Oh, yeah, something like
Or
that.
is it Abai? Adonai?
Yeah, something like that.
No, it's not.
Adoniah?
No, yeah, Adoniah. That's his name. I could probably just go back one chapter literally and find out, but we're going to guess. And so Adoniah was literally asking for one of his father's nurses, and yeah, I don't even know why he did that, but he tried to use Bathsheba, Solomon's mother, to kind of like sway his decision, and Solomon did not like that at all, and then killed his brother for that. Let me play around with this light right here. Nah. Watch this. Watch this. That's good. Okay. Back to where we were. I mean, I don't really have much to say. This is a lot of plot development, so we're just going to get to reading. We're going to power through this because I'm most excited to get to Chronicles. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm most excited to get to 2 Kings, but 1 Kings 17, 18, 2 Kings. And I want to get to the story of when they are building the temple, David takes the offering and all that stuff. And I'm also aware of some things in 2 Chronicles. There's some pretty good verses.
Is there another David?
No, well, I was telling you, like, these books here, Kings and Chronicles, they kind of jump back and forth in time.
That's weird.
Well, you know what a chronicle is, right?
No, I just
chronicle
asked you.
something.
Oh, like chronologically? Like in order?
Yes, or to take account of something
Oh.
as it pertains to times. But these books just kind of jump back and forth. So just don't let that confuse you. It's just plot development. It's important things that we need to know. Prophecies takes place a little further down the line as well. And then we power through Ezra and Nehemiah. Esther's good. Job, we power through that. And then we get to...
It's going to take so long. How much is there?
I know, we could probably get through like...
Well, it's not hard to read.
5 songs. Well, the thing is, if I have to explain stuff because the Holy Spirit's telling me something...
Yeah, there's a lot.
That is
songs.
The case.
There's so many different, like...
You know how many
things.
chapters? I mean, how many books? That's what I'm... Oh, you know what I was about to ask. How many books are in...
I don't know, hundreds.
Oh, no, you're right. Yeah, chapters. Chapters in the book of Psalm. I was thinking because Psalm is not chronological. And so, like, they, like, teach us in theology where it's not the book of, like, Psalms in the case of, like, turn to Psalms 91. It's Psalm.
Oh.
singular. When you're quoting, like, turn to this book or this chapter in Psalm, it's literally just like singular. Because none of them technically have to do with either one. You know how, like, when you're reading the New Testament and it's like a progression of a story, or even here, it's a progression of the story as the chapters go along. The book of Psalms is not like that.
Mm-hmm.
There are Psalms, but you don't be like, anyway, that's just like a really tedious thing people
Well, how
do.
many are there? You didn't.
No, I was asking you. Do you know?
No, I said 100 something. I knew there's like 100 something, but I don't know what the exact.
All right, give us a 10th digit. 110 something.
120.
Great guess. All right, let's get into the book. What?
Tell me.
You'll find out.
No, I have to know. I can't just, now I'm going to be thinking about it. What,
All right,
115?
While you're doing that, I'm going to pull it up.
$150. I was gonna say 150.
You should have. You would have looked so smart.
But then I'm like, dang, that's too much of like a exact basic number. But it was that number.
All right. All right, so to all of our 97 viewers, it says in verse 1, now King Solomon, wait. Lord gives us eyes to see, give us ears to hear, and a heart to understand what is written, reveal some mysteries to us along the way as well. In Jesus' name, amen.
Mm-hmm.
So now King Solomon was king over all Israel. Oh, yeah, and we also know about the dream that he had. What chapter was that? Was that last chapter? Yeah. So 1 Kings 3 is where Solomon has the dream with the Lord.
What was it about again?
Well, he asked, or God, well, he sacrificed 1,000 burnt offerings on some mountain. I think it was in like Gibeon. I could literally just go back and read it. Hold on. Solomon loved the Lord. He went to Gibeon, the great high place, sacrificed 1,000 burnt offerings. Then God appeared to him in a dream, like Omega. All right, you don't even know that reference, and I was about to quote it wrong. You know the dragon in Dragon Ball Z, like the green dragon? All right. Anyway, so God appears to him in a dream. He was like, hey, tell me, what do you want me to do for you? I'll get it done. And then Solomon was like, yeah, I have like some wisdom on how to govern and rule your great nation of people. And God was like, all right, and on top of wisdom, tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and give you what comes with wisdom. Riches, honor, yada, yada, right? So Solomon wakes up from his dream, and then next thing you know, he's sitting on the throne doing his daily duties. And then the two, like, I think they were prostitutes, come to him that were living together. Now good, very great, wisdom, known like ever. Did we even finish this chapter?
Well, yeah, we had to have.
Did we really, though?
Why would we just stop in the middle?
Maybe that's what we did, because I don't remember reading all of this. Or did we actually read chapter 4? Oh, I was looking in chapter 4. I went back without knowing. Here we go. So, yeah. I literally did all that just to find out if the two women were prostitutes or not. Once someone's son died, birth to it. Yep, okay, so they were. And then, he did the wise thing where one of them was satisfied with the child dying and nobody getting the child. And then the other. I mean, you just think about the type of people you hang out with. How do you both have babies? How irresponsible this one is. She sleeps on hers, causes it to die, steals yours and replaces yours with her dead one, and then takes it all the way to like the king's court. And the king's like, let's just kill him. And then she's like, yeah, nobody gets a baby. Like, I wish they would tell us like what happened to their relationship after this. What happened to the women after that? Because they live together. How do you go home together after that?
Bro, they probably kicked her out.
I mean, you would think so. You know what? This brings up a topic. I want to see. I'm not gonna say it all out.
How do you lay on your baby? Like, I understand their beds were probably not like ours back then. Probably had a small bed.
Look at these numbers. Don't read it out loud. Just look at these numbers.
Wait, what did you type in?
Right here. Oh, man.
Why'd you search that up, though?
Because 2 women living together. There's a joke there, but
okay.
Anyway. All right. I keep skipping chapter 4. What are you doing to my chair?
Oh, I was just scratching this.
No, stop.
Sorry.
Being weird. Can you see?
Yep.
All right, so now King Solomon was king. We're probably only get through one chapter the way this is going. Now King Solomon was king over all Israel. These were his officials. Azariah, the son of Zadok, was the priest. Oh, you know what? I said something about Azariah the other day. I want to see. Zadok. Hold on, let me figure out, what did God tell Eli? In Eli's priesthood, and punished Eli's family for their sins. Eli failed to discipline them. Here we go. I'm going to jump back to 1 Samuel chapter 3 real quick. All right, I had to do this on my own time. All right, so verse 3, Elihoreph and Ahijah, the sons of Shisha, were scribes. Jehoshaphat, the son of Ahilud, was the secretary, and Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, was over the army, and Zadok and Abiathar were priests, and Azariah, the son of Nathan, was over the deputies, and Zabud, the son of Nathan, a priest, was the king's confidant, and Ahishur was over the household, and Adoniram, the son of Abda, was over the forced labor. Solomon had 12 deputies over all Israel who provided food for the king and his household. Each deputy had to provide food for a month in the year, and these were their names: Ben-Hur in the hill country of Ephraim, Ben-Decker and Makaz, and Shalbim and Beth Shemesh and Elon Beth Hanan, Ben-Hesed in Aruboth. Succo was his, and all the land of Hefer. Ben Abinadab and all the hills of Dor. Taphith, the daughter of Solomon, was his wife. The son of Ahilud in Tanakh and Megiddo, and all Beth Sheen, which is besides Zarethan, below Jezreel before. All right, you guys, I'm going to skip this. But he had 12 people that were in charge of, like, what? He had these 12 officials, and for each month, so there's always been 12 months, they were in charge of a month of doing something. All right, so verse 20. Wait, let me see here. Okay, yeah, so 20. Judah and Israel were as numerous as the sand that is on the seashore in abundance. They were eating, drinking, and rejoicing. Now Solomon was ruling over all the kingdoms from the Euphrates River to the land of the Philistines and to the border of Egypt. They brought tribute to and served Solomon all the days of his life. Solomon's provisions for one day was 30 cores of fine flour and 60 cores of meal, 10 fat oxen, 20 pasture-fed oxen, and 100 sheep, besides deer, gazelles, roebucks, and fattened geese. For he was ruling over everything west of the Euphrates River, from Tifsa even to Gaza, over all the kings west of the river. And he had peace on all sides surrounding him. This is so good. I've heard somebody preach about this. Because you know what Solomon means? Doesn't it sound kind of similar to shalom? Solomon, shalom.
Yeah.
So it turns out they're from the same word, and they both mean peace. They might actually be the same word. There's just different ways of interpreting it or something like that. And so here we go. Where I mean, I'm sure the Bible brings this up. That's why I'm telling you this. But how David, his father, was a man of war. Now God said, "I'm going to give your son peace. Name him Solomon, because I'm going to bring peace to the nation." And it says God gave him peace on all sides surrounding him. And as we read it, you'll notice, or you probably won't notice. So this is what I'm telling you. Solomon never goes to war. Through his entire reign, it's just peace. So, verse 25, Judah and Israel lived securely. That's what it was. I think it was Pastor Ted. He used this relationship to talk about how, as an adult or as a parent, the battles you fight will be battles that your children will never have to see. So, David, being a man of war, fighting battle after battle, victory after victory, ends up passing on a legacy where now his child doesn't have to fight those same battles. So Judah and Israel lived securely, everyone under his vine and his fig tree, from Dan even to Beersheba, all the days of Solomon. Solomon had 40,000 stalls of horses for his 40,000 stalls of horses for his chariots and 12,000 horsemen. And those deputies provided food for King Solomon and all who came to the king's table, each in his month. They allowed nothing to be lacking. They also brought barley and straw for the war horses and baggage horses to the place where it was required, each deputy according to his duty. Now God gave Solomon wisdom and very great discernment and breadth of mind. It's an interesting phrase. Oh, it says breadth of heart is the actual phrase. So it says it was like the sand that is on the seashore. So it didn't get any wiser than Solomon. Solomon's wisdom surpassed the wisdom of all the people of the east and all the wisdom of Egypt. For he was wiser than all other people, more than Ethan the Ezrahite, Haman. So these are like notable wise people. So more than Ethan the Ezrahite, Haman, Calcol, and Darda, the sons of Mahal, and his fame was known in all the surrounding nations. He also told 3,000 proverbs, and his songs numbered 1,005. He told of trees. All right, let me see. Let me just read it. He told of trees from the cedar that is in Lebanon, even to the hyssop that grows on the wall. He told also of animals, birds, crawling things, and fish. People came from all the nations to hear I see. To hear the wisdom of Solomon from all the kings of the earth who had heard of his wisdom. So if you need a question answered, Solomon knew the answer to it. From trees in foreign lands to animals, birds, crawling things, and fish. Solomon knew. That's the wisdom God gave him. So now Hiram, king of Tyre, sent his servants to Solomon when he heard that they had anointed him king in place of his father, for Hiram had always been a friend of David. Hiram, king of Tyre, says, Then Solomon sent word to Hiram, saying, You know that David my father was unable to build a house for the name of the Lord his God because of his wars which surrounded him, until the Lord put them under the soles of his feet. So God didn't allow David to build a temple because David was a man of war, and David had to basically be about war business. So Solomon's writing back to the king of Hiram saying this, verse 4, But now the Lord my God has secured me rest on every side. There is neither adversary nor misfortune. So behold, I intend to build a house for the name of the Lord my God, just as the Lord spoke to David my father, saying, Your son whom I will put on your throne in your place, he will build the house for my name. Now then, issue orders that they cut cedars from Lebanon for me, and my servants will be with your servants, and I will give you wages for your servants in accordance with all that you say. For you yourself know that there is no one among us who knows how to cut timber like the Sidonians. So Pastor Jonathan uses the Chronicles rendition of it. So in the next book of Chronicles, he talks about Solomon and how he he proceeds to build the temple, speaking on or teaching on the spirit of excellence, or just having just the spirit of excellence about you. Mm-hmm. And so he said, when you're like in charge of doing something, you outsource for resources, or people are resources too. And so some people, they might hinder themselves by saying, so to speak, that they don't want to work with just anybody, especially if the person's not saved. But then here's King Solomon, right? Technically speaking, he's talking to a heathen king. This is not a king of Israel. He's just a king that was friends with his father. And so he's outsourcing people. He's recognizing us in Israel, we don't have the capacity to do what you guys are capable of doing. And so Solomon goes and he hires help. It doesn't matter whatever it is. Like he just wants skilled labor. And that's something that God honors. We'll read it in a psalm where David and Davon was talking about this verse yesterday, about how David writes a psalm saying, play to the Lord skillfully. I mean, God desires skill. And so he just point this out. You don't want to hinder yourself by refusing assistance or refusing skilled assistance just because of where they come from. And it's actually a wise thing. Why? And we can say that because the wisest person to ever live on earth and only on earth, in case somebody wants to say, well, what about Jesus? I mean, you could probably argue for or against. Either way, if Solomon is the wisest person ever, the wisest among all regular people born of a woman, right? If Solomon was wise enough and he to go, or if Solomon would outsource for resources and skilled labor, and then that shows us that if I'm ever in charge of something, this is a wise thing to do. And you actually, if you think about it in the business realm, talking about Rotimi and his dad's business, they at one point were making a ton of money from just going and accepting jobs, bidding on jobs and getting contracts signed for jobs, and then they would go and contract other workers to go and actually do the job. And so they worked as like a middleman, kind of like how Airbnb does it, right? Mm-hmm. We connect people that need somewhere to stay with people that actually own property. But is it the people that own the property that are getting a bunch of money? Or is it the middleman? It's the Airbnb. And so we see Solomon has a job he needs done. He needs workers to go and get it done. And it's just like that. I need something to get done. Let me contract this labor. Let me get skillful people. And we see he does this because he says, right, verse 6, issue orders that they cut cedars from Lebanon for me, and my servants will be with yours, and I will give wages to yours in accordance with what all they say. He says, for you yourself know that there is no one among us who knows how to cut timbers like the Sidonians. And so actually we see that the wisest man ever is pretty humble as well, to stoop himself lower and admit, hey, we can't do just as good as a job as you can do. And I mean, we say this because, I mean, I can say everything I'm about to say because I'm black and a Christian, so to speak. But it's like the whole black business and the whole Christian business type of thing. When people start a small business, they just say, in turn, it's like, oh, this is a black-owned business. And then you see that like they're cutting corners here and there, and they have like a deplorable system, and there's just more problems than there ought to be. But they expect you to like, interact with them and shop with them because, oh, well, you're black and I'm black. Don't you want to support black people? Like the world has kind of established that type of mode of thinking now. But then you can't really even support them because the business actually sucks. And so Solomon didn't go and say, no, let's just get people from Israel because, we want to keep the finances in-house, so to speak. But no, Solomon's not going to do that because at the end of the day, if you take that route, you're going to have a sucky product, you're going to have a sucky service, all for the sake of what? And so if you're going to take the steps to hire people that are not, what's the word? I want to use a different word than skill, but this is kind of the case. If you're going to
qualified.
There you go. Thanks. So for you to just hire people that are that are not qualified for the job simply because of relationships, you're going to end up biting the bullet at the end of the day. And I mean, we see a lot of people are actually don't know that, even in this election, right? That's coming up. But the wise thing to do is to hire the people that actually have the skills to get the job done. It doesn't matter about relationships. It doesn't matter about background. And I think that was the story of a lot of stuff is coming to me right now. I think that was the story of, Jackie Robinson. I was watching back when, Black Panther's actor, Chadwick Boseman.
I never watched that.
All right. Well, I was just making a joke. So they had like a bunch of movies where historical movies about like black people, and they had Chadwick Boseman like play like all of them, and the movies had nothing to do with each other, I don't think, but it was just like Chadwick Boseman played Jackie Robinson, he played Bobby Brown, he played in some other stuff too, but he was like the like if you needed to make a historical movie about a black figure and it was a male, they would just get they would just get Chadwick Boseman. And so in the movie where about Jackie Robinson, I'm getting somewhere. Yeah, I'm making sure. Yeah. So he entered into like the American Baseball Professional League during a time where, obviously you see 1919, racism was alive and prominent, not hidden. And so the people, obviously, segregation, all this stuff, people making fun of him. But one of the reasons why the coach hired him was because he was so good. The coach didn't care about what he looked like. He didn't care that he was black. He cared about this guy making him money. And, I mean, it went down in history. Hey, your mom's watching.
Hey, Mom. She's been watching. She said when she got off work yesterday, she finished the last broadcast.
Nice. She told me she see this right here. This is 40. The movie was called 42. This is Chadwick Boseman. This is the guy that played the Black Panther.
Oh, okay. I was like looking. I feel like he looks familiar.
Hey, let me actually show you. He played like every black person. It's actually
Is he in
hilarious.
Sandlot
Uh,
or like something?
I have no idea. I don't know everything about his whatever history, but I'll figure out the Sandlot. Then we'll get back to it.
I used to love that movie.
No. All right, but yeah, either way, going back to the Bible now. And so don't shortcut. This is what we're talking about. We love you too. Do not shortcut getting tasks done by hiring people simply based on relationship and not based on skill. That's not something that we see the wisest man that ever lived, born of a woman, to do. He humbled himself to say, I need to go and get skillful laborers. I need to find out where they are, and I'm going to hire them, and I'm going to pay them. Because there's nobody else that I know that can get the job done like this person. So when Hiram, verse 7, heard the words of Solomon, he greatly rejoiced, and he said, Blessed be the Lord today, who has given to David a wise son over this great people. I mean, check that out. So this king of Tyre hears that, and it pleases him to hear what Solomon's saying. And then because of Solomon's resolve to like, hey, I need your help. I'm going to pay you. Let's come. Let's work together. Let's get this done. This king blesses God. All right. So verse 8. So Hiram sent word to Solomon saying, I have heard the message which you sent me. I will do everything you wish concerning the cedar and juniper timber. My servants will bring the timbers down from Lebanon to the sea, and I will have them made into rafts to go by sea to the place where you direct me. And I will have them broken up there, and you will carry them away. And you shall do what I wish by giving food to my household. So Hiram gave Solomon all that he wished of the cedar and juniper timber. Solomon then gave Hiram 20,000 cores of wheat as food for his household and 20 cores of pure oil. This is what Solomon would give Hiram year by year. And the Lord gave wisdom to Solomon just as he promised him. And there was peace between Hiram and Solomon, and the two of them made a covenant. So now King Solomon conscripted forced laborers from all Israel, and the forced laborers numbered 30,000 men. Then he sent them to Lebanon, 10,000 a month in shifts. They were in Lebanon for a month and 2 months at home, and Adoniram was in charge of the forced laborers. 15. Now Solomon had 70,000 porters and 80,000 stonemasons in the mountains. And Pastor Jonathan teaches about how many people he was able to put in operation, like how he had to put people over this amount and had to delegate all these people, all these workers to go and just get a task done. And so he teaches, I think the point here is that qualities of a good leader is being able to delegate assignments and put proper people in place. So 16 says, besides Solomon's 3,300 chief deputies who were in charge of the project and ruled over the people who were doing the work. Oh yeah, and I think I remember him saying that like the point of doing all of this as well, being able to delegate, is because one man can't take care of everything. And you see, like, if you're a leader and you're trying to be hands-on with literally everything that's going on, you're going to get burnt out and you're not going to get the job done. And he says he's experienced it, like, pastor after pastor that, like, is making all the decisions around the church, ends up retiring after, like, a new building being built because they wanted this color for the seats, this color for the carpet, trying to please people here and there. And they had their hands on literally everything. And then it just ended up burning them out because that's not what you're supposed to be doing. And you can say that because the objective of a minister, Peter says it, I forget which book of Acts, but he says that ministers should focus on prayer and ministering the word. I should actually know where that is. Six, 4. Okay, Acts chapter 6, verse 4. And so, I mean, just imagine, Solomon has so much to even deal with anyway, right? And then God giving him wisdom. We can look at Solomon's life here so far, and we can get wisdom from what he's doing. So everything he's doing right now is like, this is the wisest thing you could do. Let's set people in place over these things.
I wonder how they did taxes back then with all those workers, you know? There's no way they have paperwork for all that.
I mean, or is there?
I mean, I guess that they wrote the book.
Yeah, they appointed scribes to do all this stuff. I mean, the whole scribe process even went on to, like, more modern, dynasties. But they would literally just have 2 people or just a group of people just walking around following somebody of renown and just writing down whatever they do. Like, I remember I was on TikTok one day and there was like a story of some like Japanese person and he fell off his horse and he stopped his scribes and told him, hey, don't write that into the history book or whatever. And then the scribe writes, he fell off of his horse and proceeded to ask me not to write it into the book, but I wrote it anyway. But yeah. But it's so much easier for us to keep up with history now because of social media and the internet and stuff. But back then, they used to just have people walking around.
That's cool.
With paperwork. So, so then the king issued orders and they quarried large stones, valuable stones, to lay the foundations of the house with cut stones. So Solomon's builders and Hiram's builders and the Gibeonites cut the stones and they prepared the timbers and the stones to build the house unto God. All right. Now it came about in the 480th year after the sons of Israel came out of the land of Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month of in the 480th year after the sons of Israel came out of the land of Egypt. Okay. In the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month of Ziv, that is the 2nd month, that he began to build the house of the Lord. And the house which King Solomon built for the Lord was 60 cubits in length, 20 cubits in width, and it weighed 30 cubits. It says the porch in front of the main room of the house was 20 cubits, corresponding to the width of the house, and its width along the front of the house was 10. Also for the house he made windows with artistic frames. Against the wall of the house he built stories encompassing the walls of the house around both the main room and the inner sanctuary. So he made side chambers all around them. The lowest story was 5 cubits wide, the middle was 6, the third was 7. For on the sides he also made offsets in the walls of the house all around so that the beams would not be inserted into the walls of the house. The house while it was being built was built of stone finished at the quarry, and neither hammer nor axe nor iron tool was heard in the house while it was being built. And so he's kind of just going deep into the process of what did they set up, how did they set it up, what method, that type of thing. And then we're supposed to get from this how exquisite all of it is.
What is he building?
The house or the temple to God.
Oh.
Because in the wilderness, he was in the ark, and then now this is the temple part. And then, after the temple, the whole veil thing, then Jesus dies, the veil is torn in the temple, and then now God's in us today. So, verse 8, the doorway for the lowest side chamber was on the right side of the house, and they would go up and by a winding staircase in the middle story, and from the third to from the middle to the third. So he built the house and finished it, and he covered the house with beams and planks of cedar. He also built the stories against the whole house, each 5 cubits high, and they were attached to the house with timbers of cedar. Now the word of the Lord came to Solomon, saying, as for this house which you are building, if you will walk in my statutes and okay, wait. Remember how I said there's nowhere where you can read where God has given a command without telling you what the reward is. Let's check this out. Let's see. So the word of the Lord came to Solomon, saying, as for this house which you are building, if you will walk in my statutes and execute my ordinances and keep all my commandments by walking in them, then So God says, this is what I want you to do. And if you do that, then I'm going to do something. He says, I will fulfill my word with you, which I have spoke to David your father. And I will dwell among the sons of Israel and will not abandon my people, Israel. I like this verse right here because sometimes what happens in people's lives that's like tragic or sucks is because they've lived a life where they've made God to have to abandon them. And when God abandons you, you're just free reign for all the other forces of evil, if you want to sound philosophical. It says, so Solomon built the house and finished it. He built the walls of the house on the inside with boards of cedar. From the floor of the house to the ceiling, he paneled the walls on the inside with wood, and he paneled the floor of the house with boards of juniper. He also built 20 cubits on the rear part of the house with boards of cedar from the floor to the ceiling. He built them for it on the inside as an inner sanctuary, as the most holy place. So they set up the temple the same way they set up the tabernacle in the wilderness, where they had that tent that they would put the ark in. So there's those sections where it's like, hey, this is the outer part, this is the inner part, and then there's a place where only the high priest can go. The temple is the same way, in essence. So the most holy place, or the Holy of Holies, is what the King James Version says, is this is the place in the temple where only the high priest can go once a year. So, and this is an area that Jesus opened up to everybody when he died, so that no one is, or anyway, we'll get to that. It says in verse 17, the house that is the main room in the front of the inner sanctuary was 40 cubits long. There was, all right, let's see, how long is a cubit?
Seems like that's the only like measurement they use.
Yeah. It's 18 inches. So 6 inches, or it's a foot and a half.
Seems about right.
How long is a regular house? All right, let's say this. How many cubits is the, okay, a football field? That's a good question. Okay, so we just divide 360 by 18 times 12. Did I do that right? Because a cubit is 18 inches, and a football field is 360 feet.
Why'd you put times 12?
I don't know. I'm trying to remember how to do math.
What are you trying to figure out? How many?
Well, 360 feet, right? So let's just do it this way. If we divide 360, or multiply by 12, that's what we got to do. That's how many inches a football field is, right? And then we divide that by 18. So a football field is 240 cubits. So then if we divide 40 by 240, 16%, there we go. So the house at the front would cover 16% of a football field. I did all of that just to find out that, because it's 40 cubits long. So this house that is the main room in front of the inner sanctuary would cover 16% of a football field. There was cedar inside the house, carved in the shape of gourds and open flowers. Everything was cedar. There was no stone visible. Then he prepared an inner sanctuary inside the house in order to place there the ark of the covenant of the Lord. The inner sanctuary was 20 cubits in length, 20 cubits in width, and 20 cubits in height, and he overlaid it with pure gold. So not only did he use fine wood, he also covered the fine wood that nobody would see with pure gold. That's how Pastor Jonathan taught it. And so he didn't skip any steps, right? Because if you're going to cover it in gold, you could have just used anything. But he used those cedars from Lebanon. All right, so he also paneled the altar with cedar. So Solomon overlaid the inside of the house with pure gold, and how do you even do that?
What?
How do you overlay it with pure gold?
Melt it and then pour it on top of it? That's what I think.
And he extended chains of gold across the front of the inner sanctuary, and he overlaid it with gold. He overlaid the entire house with gold until all the house was finished. Also, the entire altar, which was by the inner sanctuary, was overlaid with gold. So you just walk into a gold room, all gold, everything. And then the inner sanctuary, he made two. You know that one? No. And in the inner sanctuary, he made 2 cherubim of olive wood, each 10 cubits high. And one wing on the first cherub was 5 cubits, and the other wing on the first was 5. From the end of one wing to the end of the other was 10, so it had a 10-cubit wingspan. The second cherubim was 10 cubits. Both of the cherubim were on the same measurements in the same form. The height of the one cherub was 10, and so was the other. He placed the cherub in the midst of the inner house, and the wings of the cherub spread out so that the wing of the one was touching the one wall, and the wing of the other was touching the other wall, and their wings were touching end to end in the center of the house. He also overlaid the cherubim with gold. Then he carved all the surrounding walls of the house with engravings of cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers for the inner and outer sanctuaries. He overlaid the floor of the house with gold for the inner and the outer sanctuaries. And for the entrance of the inner sanctuary, he made doors of olive wood, the lintel, and 5-sided doorposts. So he made 2 doors of olive wood, and he carved on them carvings of cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers, and overlaid them with gold. And he overlaid the cherubim and the palm trees with gold. So too he made for the entrance of the main room 4-sided doorposts of olive wood. And yes, everything he put in there was gold. All right, let's look at a picture of it.
Yes, I was going to ask you that. Dang, he has to be so rich to make this.
Okay, let me see. Okay, let's do this. Let's go to Google. Okay, images. This might be the best thing we get right here. How'd they go to the website?
Dang.
Okay, I don't know what I'm trying to do. This is probably it though. All right, let's visit this.
What is this one?
Well, we haven't read that yet. But it's for washing. Okay. Oh, it's making me open in a new tab. It's still making me open a new tab. All right, let's do this. No way. Oh, it must be like the link itself. All right, you guys, let me see if I can.
Can't you just like press this?
Do it. Well, it's supposed to be like command zone.
Oh, try. Command.
Oh, nice. You got it. Oh, I need the plus. Yeah. Just hold it. No way. The image got small. All right, yeah, we got to find a different picture, you guys. Jay, I still need you to help me.
Command.
Plus. Okay. All right. So we're gonna find a good image before we move on.
You're going too far. Now it's really zoomed out.
No, I think it's the same thing.
No.
Oh, it says reset. These pictures still kind of suck, not gonna lie. Are you satisfied though?
Yeah, I mean.
I gotta show the people. Hold on. All right, here we go. This is what we were looking at. Bruh. Hello?
I'll let you zoom in.
Why would they not let me zoom in? Why do I... Why is this still?
Now go like this.
No, it's okay. It's just... We just have to hold that L. So here's the cherubim. That's just the Holy of Holies back there. This is the inner. This is the outer.
What are those things like with wings? What is it?
The cherubim.
Yeah, what animal is it?
It's like, well, you gotta get
Like
to
a lion?
the book of Isaiah. We'll get there.
Is that for sacrifices?
Yes. All right, but yeah. And then this is for like washing the utensils.
Utensils.
Well, we're about to read all of that. All right, you guys, let's get back to reading the Bible. We tried to show the temple, but nothing that we linked worked. I should have just prepared something like in a PowerPoint. Oh, the Bible's not even up again. Hold on, let me get back to it.
Delete the other ones. There's so many open.
I will. Just have to get back to. Okay. What chapter were we even in? Or we just finished the chapter? We're in chapter 7 now. Okay. All right, here we go. So we tried to show the temple, but that didn't really work so that you guys could see too. So just go check it out yourself. All right, continuing on. Now Solomon built his own house over the course. His own house. Yeah. He built his own house over the course of 13 years, and he finished all of his house. Let me make sure. Okay, yeah, this is why I didn't mean to skip over this. So last couple of verses in chapter 6, it says, in the 4th year, the foundation of the house of the Lord was laid in the month of Ziv, and in the 11th year, in the month of Bul, that is the 8th month, the house was finished in all its parts and in accordance with all its plans. So he was 7 years in building it. Yes. Okay. Now, it took Solomon 13 years to build his own house. So he built his house of the timber from Lebanon. Its length was 100 cubits, its width 50 cubits, and its height 30 cubits on 4 rows of cedar pillars with cedar beams on the pillars. And so I want to stop here and read or say something, even though I just started back reading. But this established a principle that I learned from Pastor Jonathan, or we can see a principle I learned, was that he says, and I live by this now too, I don't do anything for myself that I haven't first done for the Lord.
Ah.
Yes. And so you see, it took him 7 years to finish the temple to God, but it took him 13 years to do his own house. So he didn't build his house first before building God a house. Mm-hmm. Right? And so we all know now, Pastor Jonathan's testimony, he said, he compounded that principle with, I'm not going to do something for somebody else that I haven't first done unto the Lord. So he compounded that verse with the verse about being lenders only and not borrowers. And then also you're going to dwell in homes that you did not build. And so he didn't have his own house for 40 something years. And now somebody sows into the $1 million property, the money to buy furniture and a car.
That was a crazy testimony.
Crazy testimony. and is living from this principle. And that happened the same year he finished paying off other people's mortgages in his congregation. And so here we have it, the wisest man ever. Oops. The wisest man ever to live says, I want to build God's house before I even built my house. And that's just an honor principle. And if you honor God, God honors you. So let's see how nice was Solomon's house. Because obviously the Lord had to help him get this done. So, yep, big house. Verse 3, and it was paneled with cedar above the side chambers, which were on the 45 pillars, 15 in each row. There were artistic window frames in 3 rows, and the window was opposite window at 3 intervals. And window was opposite window at 3 intervals. Okay. And all the doorways and doorposts had squared artistic frames. Squared. And windows, why do I want to say windows? And window was opposite window at 3 intervals. I don't even know what this looks like. Then he made the hall of pillars. You know, I think our ability as human beings to be artistic is just like really falling short in modern times.
Yeah, modern stuff is so simple now. It's not even like you go to Europe and you see all these like church buildings or like these historic buildings.
Just buildings in general.
Like detailed they are.
Yeah.
It's like, how does someone even carve that out?
I was thinking about artwork though, like paintings and stuff and sculptures, statues, like during that like Renaissance age where like all those guys were doing that stuff. Like I don't think we'll ever get back to that.
Yeah.
Like you gotta wait till we go to heaven to see art that amazing.
People don't like to put the work in like that anymore.
And see, you know,
well, there are some people I'm sure, but not as common.
Yeah, I was gonna say like with those people like the Michelangelo, Leonardo, Ninja Turtles, right? What do you like? How did they do that? Like, where do you think they got that from? Was it divine inspiration? Because I would say the level of artistic vision that they had back then is like so unattainable as to like the level of building the pyramids back in Egypt when they put them up. We can't replicate that stuff.
I think you know why? Back then they didn't have everything we had. Like, they didn't have social media
And brain rot.
or anything. Yes.
And sugar.
So yeah, so they literally like, I'm pretty sure they got bored a lot. So they were just expressing their creativity and just spending their time on artistic stuff and like, what can I do here to make it look like this? And just, you know, they're able to actually like meditate on their thoughts and like create something really cool, because what else did they have to do? They're not thinking about, oh, well, this looks like this from this other person looking on the internet.
Right.
It's just divinely inspired by them, you know, their own brains or what they've seen in the world.
I need to know an art teacher, somebody can talk to us about this stuff. I'm sure drugs were in there somewhere though.
Drugs?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Like they had nothing to do.
Oh.
You know, you watched any like Native American documentary? All they did was hunt and get high.
Really? I'm not.
Maybe not all they did, but that's mainly what they did. Fight each other, hunt, and do drugs. But anyway, if you're an artist, please be offended. Then he made the hall of pillars. Its length was 50 cubits and width 30, and the porch was in front of them, and pillars and a threshold in front of them. And he made I do not want to read this. All right, Solomon made an amazing house. So the large courtyard, okay. And above were valuable stones cut according to measure. So the large courtyard was around 3 rows. And a row of cedar beams, as well as an inner courtyard of the house of the Lord and the porch of the house. You know a picture of Solomon's house?
Mm-hmm. It looks like it was like near, like in the temple area.
Yeah, because look what we just read. So, let me see, let me start. Oh, here's something. Verse 8, and his house where he was to live, the other courtyard inward from the hall, was the same of workmanship. He also made a house that, like this hall, for Pharaoh's daughter, who he married. And then we jump down. I don't want to say that again. So it says, and the foundation was of valuable stones, large stones, stones of 10 cubits, stones of 8 cubits. And above were valuable stones cut according to measure and cedar. So the large courtyard all around had 3 rows of cut stone and a row of cedar beams, as well as the inner courtyard of the house of the Lord and the porch of the house.
Court.
Yes.
There's literally stairs going down to his house.
Yeah.
What the heck? So back then they like built like a square so that no one can get in like that or something.
Yeah, but what we just read that was them making a wall.
Huh.
You can't just have the temple of the Lord and anybody can just walk in.
Yeah.
And then the king's house is right next to it too. You can't just go around
What the
back.
heck is this for? Hall of Pillars?
We haven't read that yet. All right, so look.
Look at how it looks. Just pillars.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
You weren't there, Jay. It's like the city hall over there by the local. Everything's just right there next to each other.
What?
All right, so
Anyway.
yeah, let's finish. Now, King Solomon sent word and had Hiram. This is the king of Tyre. So he had the king of Tyre come in now. He was a widow's son from the tribe of Naphtali. Oh. And his father was a man of Tyre, an artisan in bronze, and he was filled with wisdom, skill, and knowledge for doing works in bronze. So he came to King Solomon and performed all his work. Okay. Let's see. So Hiram's mother was a Jew. Hiram's father. Actually, let me just say this. Is the land of Tyre in the Bible Jewish? Okay, no, Tyre was not a Jewish city. It just was connected with the Jews. Okay. And so Hiram ends up being, what's the word? I think the whole concept of being a Samaritan is somebody that's a mixed breed Jew. So let me see, what is a Samaritan in the Bible? A person from the regions of Samaria, located north of Jerusalem, who were considered a mixed population of Israelites and people from other nations. Okay, yeah. So Hiram was a Samaritan. He was a good Samaritan. All right, you don't get that joke. All right, so now King Solomon sent word and had Hiram brought from Tyre. He was a widow's son from the tribe of Naphtali, and his father was a man of Tyre, an artisan in bronze. We read this. So he came to King Solomon and performed all his work. He fashioned 2 pillars of bronze, 18 cubits of height for each one, and a line of 12 cubits measured the circumference of both. He also made 2 capitals of cast bronze to put on the top of the pillars. The height of one of them was 5, and the height of the other was the same. There were lattice. What is a lattice, babe? Lattice in the Bible. I guess I gotta look at images. Oh, that's actually pretty cool. You see, it's like a type of window. Yeah, you said it better. So there were lattices of lattice work and wreaths of chain work. Oh, okay, so I could have got that if I kept reading. For the capitals which were on the top of the pillars, 7 for the one capital and 7 for the other one. So he made the pillars and 2 rows around them. All right, so the king of Tyre came and did some great stuff. And he set up the pillars. So this is what you were just looking at, the pillars. He set up the pillars at the porch of the main room. He set up the right pillar, named it Jachin. Set up the left pillar, named it Boaz. On the top of the pillars was the lily design. So the work of the pillars was finished. I don't know. Okay, so he also made the seat of cast metal, 10 cubits from brim to brim, circular in shape, and its height was 5 cubits, and it was 30 cubits in circumference. That was the thing you were looking at. Under its brim, gourds went around encircling in 10 to a cubit, completely surrounding the sea. The gourds were in two rows cast with the rest. It was standing on 12 oxen. You remember
What?
from the picture? You were like, what is this?
Pillars?
No, our when we were looking at the temple, and you're like, what's this stuff on the outside? We're reading that now.
What, like the wall? The water?
Yes,
Okay.
because you see, it says 12 oxen. You remember?
Yeah.
Do you?
The little
Yes.
water dishes thing.
Or well, we haven't read that yet, but three facing north, three facing west, three facing south, and three facing east, and the sea was set on top of them. So it's just like a big cauldron. Uh,
It was
and
salt water.
and all their rear parts turned inward, and it was a hand width thick. It was a hand width thick, and its brim was made like the brim of a cup, like a lily blossom. It could hold 2,000 bath. Oh, I think it's huge.
Why did it say hand width thick? So it was only this round?
Like thick. Like this table is not a hand width thick.
Oh,
Yeah. So
wait.
this is
So
width. This is
it was
width.
that the metal was this thick?
Yes.
Around like that?
Yeah. And it could hold 2,000. Is that what I just read? 2,000 baths. But I think like their baths back then is way bigger than ours.
Hmm.
Like we got tubs now, but they didn't have like a tub back then. So then he made the 10 stands of bronze. The length of each stand was 4 cubits, the width 4, and the height was 3. This was the design of the stands. They had borders, that is borders. I like this because the king of Tyre is doing all this stuff, right? Hiram, and he still has skill about himself. So he's a ruler, but he works with his hands. Like he still has like, he know what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the borders, he's talking about the other ones, the smaller ones. And on the borders which were between the crossbars were lions, oxen, and cherubim. And on the crossbars there was a pedestal above, and beneath the lions and oxen were wreaths of hanging work. Now each stand had 4 bronze wheels with bronze axles, and the 4 feet had supports beneath the basins, were cast supports with wreaths on each side, so they could roll it around. And its opening inside the crown at the top was a cubit, and its opening was round like the design of a pedestal, a cubit and a half. And on its opening was also there were engravings, and their borders were square, not round. The 4 wheels underneath the borders and the axles of the wheels were on the stand, and the height of the wheel was a cubit and a half. The workmanship of the wheels was like the workmanship of a chariot wheel. Their axles, their rims, their spokes, and their hubs were all cast. Now there were 4 supports. Okay. Verse 40. Oh, wait. Yes, verse 40. Now Hiram made the basins and the shovels and the bowls. So Hiram finished doing all the work which he performed for King Solomon in the house of the Lord. The 2 pillars and the 2 bowls of the capitals which were on the top of the 2 pillars, the 2 lattices to cover the 2 bowls of the capital which were on the top of the pillars, and the 400 pomegranates for the 2 lattices, 2 rows of pomegranates for each lattice to cover the 2 bowls of the capitals which were on the top of the pillars, and the 10 stands on the 10 basins of the stands, and the 1 sea, what does it say here? Basin, and the 12 oxen under the seat, and the buckets, the shovels, and the bowls. Indeed, all these utensils which Hiram made for King Solomon in the house of the Lord were of polished bronze. So you can see yourself in them. And the king had them cast in the plain of the Jordan, in the clay ground between Succoth and Zarethan. However, Solomon left all the utensils unweighed because there were too many. The weight of the bronze could not be determined. Solomon also made all the furniture that was in the house of the Lord, the golden altar and the golden table on which was set the bread of the presence. This was the bread that David ate. And the lampstands of pure gold, 5 on the right side and 5 on the left, and in front of the inner sanctuary, and the flowers, the lamps, and the tongs of gold. Also the cups, the shears, the bowls, and the ladles, and the fire pans of pure gold, and the hinges both for the doors in the inner house, the most holy place, and for the doors of the house, that is, for the main room of gold. So, this is the house of the Lord, but people service, they do service there, right? They got to cook stuff to sacrifice. They got to chop things up. They got to put stuff on plates. So all the utensils in the most holy place for service was gold. So all the work that King Solomon performed in the house of the Lord was finished, and Solomon brought in the offerings vowed by his father David, the silver and the gold and the utensils, and he put them in the treasuries of the house of the Lord. Here we go. Then Solomon assembled the elders of Israel and all the heads of the tribes, the leaders of the fathers' households of the sons of Israel, to King Solomon in Jerusalem. So he basically called all the important people to bring up the ark of the covenant of the Lord from the city of David, that is Zion. So all the men of Israel assembled themselves before King Solomon at the feast in the month of Ithanim, that is the 7th month. Then all the elders of Israel came, and the priests took up the ark. And they brought up the ark of the Lord, the tent of meeting, and all the holy utensils which were in the tent. The priests and the Levites brought them up. And King Solomon and all the congregation of Israel who were gathered together to him were with him before the ark, sacrificing so many sheep and oxen that they could not be counted or numbered. Then the priests brought the ark of the covenant of the Lord to its place into the inner sanctuary of the house, to the most holy place, under the wings of the cherubim. For the cherubim spread their wings over the place of the ark, and the cherubim made a covering over the ark and its carrying poles from above. But the poles were so long that the ends of the poles could be seen from the holy place in front of the inner sanctuary, but they could not be seen outside. They are there to this day. There was nothing in the ark except so it tells us here. So there was nothing in the ark except the 2 tablets of stone, which Moses put there at Horeb. So that's the 10 Commandments. Where the Lord, let me just keep reading. Where the Lord had made a covenant with the sons of Israel when they came out of the land of Egypt. Okay, so it didn't say that. So the 10 Commandments were in the Ark of the Covenant. And it happened that when the priest came from the holy place, the cloud filled the house of the Lord, so that the priest could not stand to minister, because the cloud for the glory of the Lord filled the house of the Lord. And so people will use this verse right here, or this event, so to speak, when people kind of question, why did that person fall down when you laid hands on them or something? And so it says, let me read it again for your understanding. So they just took the Ark of the Covenant. It was in the city of David. But Solomon went and he made a temple unto God. So they have to take the Ark and put it in the temple. It used to just be in a tent, but now they have like an actual building for it. So they're taking it from the tent, putting it in the temple. And when they put it in the temple, all the people that were supposed to come and minister fell, and they couldn't minister because when the ark got into the temple, it says and it happened that when the priest came from the holy place, the cloud filled the house of the Lord. So God's presence came down so that the priest could not stand to minister because of the cloud, for the glory of the Lord filled the house of the Lord. And so that's one case for, if somebody is led to fall, that's why. It's just something it's something that you see can happen when the presence of God fills something. And then I would like to also say as well that, the story of the woman with the issue of blood, right? Where she touched the hem of his garment. Well, if that's what happens when a woman touches his clothes, right? What do you think happens when God actually touches you? Like when Jesus touched children, Jesus touched a casket, we'll read about it, and a dead boy just ruined the funeral. Jesus goes up, touches a casket, and the boy comes back to life. Jesus goes up to somebody's daughter, touches her, the girl comes back to life. And so obviously there's power in the touch, but I'll just leave it at that. There's power in the touch. If you fall out, you fall out. But if you get touched, you better believe you receive something. So verse 12, then Solomon said, the Lord has said that he would dwell in the thick darkness. I have truly built you a lofty house, a place for your dwelling forever. Then the king turned around and blessed all the assembly of Israel, while all the assembly of Israel was standing. He said, blessed be the Lord, the God of Israel, who spoke with his mouth to my father David and fulfilled it with his hands. That's actually a bar. He spoke with his mouth, fulfilled it with his hands, saying, Since the day that I brought my people Israel from Egypt, I did not choose a city out of all the tribes of Israel in which to build a house so that my name would be there. But I chose David to be over my people Israel. Now it was in my heart, or now it was in the heart of my father David to build a house for the name of the Lord, the God of Israel. But the Lord said to my father David, Because it was in your heart to build a house for my name, you did well that it was in your hearts. So God liked that he wanted to build a house. Nevertheless, you shall not build the house, but your son who will be born to you, he will build the house for my name. Now the Lord has fulfilled his word which he spoke, for I have risen in place of my father David, and I sit on the throne of Israel, just as the Lord promised. And I have built the house for the name of the Lord, the God of Israel. And there I have set a place for the ark, in which is the ark of the Lord, or the covenant of the Lord, which he made with our fathers when he brought them out of the land of Egypt. Then Solomon stood before the, it's actually pretty amazing, because none of them that's living today that actually see the ark were there when it was being made, carried around in the wilderness. But obviously they believe all of those times, because there it is. This is what our forefathers created. This is what God decided his presence was going to dwell in. This is what the Levites took around. This is what we brought into battle and had victory with. It's right there. And now the people that Solomon's addressing now, they're in another historical time where this thing that we've only heard stories of, even though we've known it to be in the tent, now we're the generation that sees it, or God, to be moved into a temple. I think that's pretty amazing. So where are we now? Then Solomon stood before the altar of the Lord in the presence of all the assembly of Israel, and he spread out his hands towards heaven. And he said, Lord God of Israel, there is no God like you in heaven, above or my goodness. My brain's still that he spread out his hands towards heaven. I wanted to say, like, look how he lifted his hands before the Lord in honor. So, all right, now I can move on. And he said, Lord God of Israel, there is no God like you in heaven, above or on earth beneath, keeping the covenant and showing faithfulness to your servants who walk before you with all their heart. Check that out. That's a caveat. It's not just with your heart, with all of your heart. It says, you who have kept with your servant, my father David, that which you promised to him, you have spoken with your mouth and have fulfilled it with your hand, as it is this day. Now then, Lord, God of Israel, keep with your servant David, my father, that which you have promised him, saying, you shall not be deprived of a man to sit on the throne of Israel, if only your sons are careful about their way to walk before me as you have walked. So, that's the caveat right there. You'll have a son on the throne, a man to sit on the throne, if your sons are careful to walk in the way I want them to walk. Now then, God of Israel, let your words please be confirmed, which you have spoken to your servant, my father David. He says, but will God indeed dwell on the earth? Behold, heaven and the highest heaven cannot contain you. How much less this house which I have built? Nevertheless, turn your attention to the prayer of your servant and to his plea, Lord my God, to listen to the cry and to the prayer which your servant prays before you today, so that your eyes may be open towards this house night and day, toward the place of which you have said, my name shall be there, to listen to the prayer which your servant will pray towards this place. And listen to that's why Muslims turn towards the thing. They got it from this. I'm remembering something else that happens in a little bit as well with another king. And listen to the plea of your servants and of your people Israel, when they pray toward this place. Hear in heaven your dwelling place, hear and forgive. If a person sins against his neighbor and is compelled to take an oath of innocence, and he comes and takes an oath before your altar in this house, then hear in heaven and act and judge your servants, condemning the wicked by bringing his weight on his own head, and acquitting the righteous by giving him according to his righteousness. When your people Israel are defeated before an enemy because they have sinned against you, check that out. When your people Israel are defeated before an enemy because they have sinned against you. That's the only way they could be defeated, is because they're in sin. Solomon, the wisest man, obviously knew that. He says, if they turn to you again and confess your name and pray and implore your favor in this house, then hear in heaven and forgive the sin of your people Israel and bring them back to the land which you gave their fathers. When the heavens are shut up and there is no rain because they have sinned against you, look at that. Why is it dry? Because of sin. All right, this is my proof. I need to highlight this verse because I think I said it earlier that famine, I mean, this is more proof because the last time I brought this up, it kind of proved itself as well. But when you see like a place of famine, that's judgment on a place. Anytime the heavens is closed, anytime the land's dried up, is because there's been sin, and famine is a result of sin. In the same way, or in the same manner or likeness that a flood in the Bible is like a result of judgment. It said the Holy Spirit hovered over the waters back when like God, before he like brought the land back up, because the devil had led that rebellion. And then also Noah, the whole flood thing, right? And so we see there like flood was symbolic of some type of judgment coming. And then even says how the enemy comes in like a flood. But God said that, the whole point of the rainbow is that he would never destroy the earth with a flood again. So I just, stuff you can kind of point out as you're reading. So let me read 35 again. It says, when the heavens are shut up and there is no rain because they have sinned against you, and they pray toward this place and you praise your name. Wait, not you. They pray towards this place and praise your name and turn from their sin when you afflict them. Then hear in heaven and forgive the sin of your servants and your people Israel. Indeed, teach them the good way in which they are to walk. It does make a lot of sense, because a part of like listening to God and being blessed is that God blesses your land. And so sin cuts off the blessing. And so if your land is being blessed because of your obedience, then your land's going to get cursed because of your disobedience. It's just a hand-to-hand thing. He says, and provide rain on your land, which you have given to your people as an inheritance. If there is a famine in the land, and when you see the word famine, just think about produce, right? Or a lack of produce. When things are not producing, there's nothing to show for any labor. And resources are drying up, right? There's like a plateau, and then it's not just a plateau, but there's a plateau and then there's a dissension from that where nobody's multiplying anymore. That's famine. So if there is a famine in the land, if there is a plague, if there is a blight or mildew, locust or grasshopper, if their enemy harasses them in the land of their cities, whatever plague, whatever sickness there is, whatever prayer or plea is offered by any person or by all your people Israel, each knowing the affliction of his own heart and spreading his hands toward this place. So if you don't like lifting up your hands, I don't know what to tell you. Then hear in heaven your dwelling place and forgive and act and give to each in accordance with all his ways, whose heart you know, for you alone know the heart of all of mankind, so that they will fear you all the days that they live on the land which you have given to our fathers. You know my heart, Lord. They took this one verse and just ran with it. Also regarding the foreigner who is not of your people Israel, when he comes from a far country on account of your name, for they will hear of your great name and your mighty hand and of your outstretched arm. You see what he's saying there?
What?
From God's works, his mighty hand, his outstretched arm, his great name, that's going to draw foreigners to come and dwell here. So he's addressing that now. So when people hear, from people from afar, foreign people, foreign nations, hear about what you are doing here for your people, when they come, this is Solomon's address to that, his request to that. It says, when he comes and prays toward this house, hear in heaven your dwelling place, and act in accordance with all for which the foreigner calls to you, in order that all the peoples of the earth may know your name, to fear you as do your people Israel, and that they may know that this house which I have built is called by your name. So he's even praying to God, requesting that when foreigners come, because they heard about your great deeds, they are going to come here, they're going to pray to you. Solomon's asking, hear their prayer, Lord. He says, when your people go out to battle against their enemy by whatever way you send them, and they pray to the Lord toward the city which you have chosen and the house which I have built for your name, then hear in heaven their prayer and their pleading and maintain their cause. When they sin against you, for there is no person who does not sin, and you are angry with them and turn them over to an enemy so that they take them away captive to the land of the enemy, distant or near, if they take it to heart in the land where they have been taken captive and repent and implore, your favor in the land of those who have taken them captive. So if they sin and then they go into captivity because of that sin, once they pray to you in the land that they've been taken captive, he says, if they take it to heart in the land where they have been taken captive and repent and implore your favor in the land of whose, I said it again, in the land of those who have taken them captive, saying, we have sinned and done wrong, we have acted wickedly. If they return to you with all their heart and with all their soul in the land of their enemies, who have taken them captive, and pray to you toward their land, which you have given to their fathers, to the city which you have chosen, and to the house which I have built for your name, then hear their prayer and their pleading in heaven, your dwelling place, and maintain their cause. And forgive your people who have sinned against you and all their wrongdoings which they have committed against you, and make them objects of compassion before those who have taken them captive, so that they will have compassion on them. For they are your people and your inheritance, which you have brought out of Egypt from the midst of the iron furnace, so that your eyes may be open to the pleading of your servant and the pleading of your people Israel, to listen to them wherever they call to you. For you have singled them out of all peoples of the earth as your inheritance, just as you spoke through Moses your servant, when you brought our fathers out of Egypt, Lord God. All right, we're definitely ending here. So, last couple of verses, hopefully. When Solomon had finished praying this entire prayer and plea to the Lord, he stood up from the altar of the Lord, from kneeling on his knees with his hands spread toward heaven. And he stood and blessed all the assembly of Israel with a loud voice, saying, Blessed be the Lord, who has given rest to his people Israel in accordance with everything that he has promised. Not one word has failed all of his good promise. Check that out. Which he promised through Moses his servant. May the Lord our God be with us as he was with our fathers. May he not leave us nor forsake us, so that he may guide our hearts toward himself, to walk in all his ways and to keep his commandments, his statutes, and his ordinances, which he commanded our fathers. And may these words of mine, with which I have implored the favor of the Lord, be near to the Lord our God day and night, so that he will maintain the cause of his servant and the cause of his people Israel, as each day requires, so that all the peoples of the earth may know that the Lord is God, there is no one else. Your hearts therefore shall be wholly devoted to the Lord our God, to walk in his statutes and to keep his commandments as at this day. That's a weird way of saying anything. As at this day. As at. All right. So, I mean, you got to bear in mind as well. Look how many times he says serving God wholly, like entirely, wholly devoted with your whole heart. Turn back to the Lord with your whole heart, your whole soul. It says then, I mean, that should encourage anybody that feels like they're away from God because they've done something wrong. It's in your own power to be able to fully turn back to the Lord, to forsake whatever it is that caused you to turn away from him. Leave that behind, turn back to God, and then watch what he does for you. Then the king and all Israel with him offered sacrifice before the Lord, and Solomon offered for the sacrifice of peace offerings, which he offered to the Lord, 22,000 oxen and 120,000 sheep. So the king and all the sons of Israel dedicated the house of the Lord. On the same day, the king consecrated the middle of the courtyard that was in front of the house of the Lord, because there he offered the burnt offerings and grain offerings and the fat of peace offerings. For the bronze altar that was before the Lord was too small to hold the burnt offering, the grain offering, and the fat of the peace offering. So Solomon held the feast at the time. So Solomon held the feast at that time, and all Israel with him, a great assembly from the entrance of Hamath to the brook of Egypt before the Lord our God for 7 days and 7 more days, that is 14. On the eighth day he dismissed the people, and they blessed the king. Then they went to their tents joyful and with happy hearts for all the goodness that the Lord had shown to David his servant and to Israel's people. Check that out. David's relationship with God is a huge reason why they're even able to enjoy this prosperity, this blessing, even because of a father's what's the word? A father's concern with serving God. Bless the entire nation. And Rotimi taught about it the other day about how like they were still enjoying the blessing that came from God's covenant with David or relationship with David 300 years past David's death. God was still doing things on account. God was still doing things for Israel on account of David, their forefather. Let me peep at the next chapter. I'm not going to read it though, because my throat is dry. Okay, so
Probably a
next,
good place to stop anyway.
yeah, we just read a lot. It's probably one of the longest chapters in the Bible.
Really?
That was a lot of words. Oh, God appears to Solomon a second time. But we're going to have to get into that this Thursday. Wait, today's Thursday. Tuesday. Oh, we won't have a broadcast this Thursday. Not this Thursday, that's today. Next Thursday, because our ministerial friend, brother, friend, just friend in all aspects. Psalm 119, that is a very long chapter. I didn't say it was the longest. I said it's one of the longest because I'm aware that
But I
Psalm
was
119 is the longest. It has a lot of bangers in there. That's the chapter where it says his word is a lamp unto my feet, a light unto my path. There's a lot of other stuff in that one too. But we won't have from Genesis to Revelation this Thursday. I keep saying this. Next
upcoming
Thursday. Well, technically it would be, I guess I can't say that because what? Hey, can you do? No. Wait. See what he says about 350. All right, this 380 is such a random one. You should have said 400 there.
Because it's like almost to 400, but it's like psychologically, it's like, oh, it's like $20 less, you know?
Okay.
Sorry, I kind of interrupted that.
But you guys, I'm going to power through next episode because I'm trying to get to chapter 17. Love you too. Thanks for enduring to the end with us. You have a great time at work.
Thanks, Mom. Yeah, you make some good tips tonight. She's a waitress.
Yeah, I'm excited about chapter. So we got to what, chapter 9? Let me make sure I change that in the title. I realized that I could do it here and it'll update everything. But thank you guys. God bless you. Have the great rest of your day, rest of your night, rest of your morning. Thank you, all 103 of you that have been watching.